Hello and welcome dear students. Today we are going to discuss the Varna. But before we discuss the different dimensions or aspects of today's topic, let me briefly introduce you to the main objectives of today's lecture. To understand the meaning and nature of Varna and Jati, to explore and grasp various popular theories about the origin of Varnas, to discuss various duties assigned to respective Varna by the popular religious scriptures. Throughout the early medieval period, India's administration, economy, and society witnessed a sweeping shift. The focus of the current lecture is to understand the tremendous social change that took place during this time. We must remember that these changes were influenced by many political and economic events rather than occurring naturally. It may be argued that all political, economic, and socio-cultural developments on the subcontinent were primarily a result of extensive land grants. Land grants enabled state civilization spread into non-state territories and played a significant role in the spectacular expansion of polities. The establishment of regional, sub-regional, and trans-regional political bodies paved the way for both social and economic reforms. The fourfold Varna order, a Brahminical social ideal, gave rise to a caste system that was more intricate, complex, and locally varied. Though the fourfold Varna system's construct was settled there in the Dharma Shastras at this period, but it was never exactly the same as it had been before. The Varna system operated on a theoretical level in the Brahminical discourses on society, while the Jati system provided the functional component of society. Even Varna and Jati, especially for the Brahman caste, were sometimes used interchangeably. Now, let me talk about the Varna system. Varna in the Indian social system merely refers roughly to the status that various jatis are accorded and is not a functional unit of social structure. It serves as a classification tool as well. It groups and ranks many jatis according to their assigned ceremonial status in a hierarchical manner. In addition to their biological birth, the three top degrees of birth, the Brahman, the Kshatriya, and the Vaishyas, are seen as having undergone two births. The second birth is considered the day on which they perform Upanayana ceremony. The fourth level, the Shudra, is made up of numerous craft people and jatis who have chosen pure or non-polluting activities. Although the Varna hierarchy ends here, fifth level is available to people who work in supposedly dirty or polluting professions. They are Antyajas, that is outside the Varna system. They constitute what are known as the Dalits or untouchables. Now, we will briefly discuss about the popular theories related to the origin of Varna. The earliest Vedic literature contains a number of sections that discuss how the Varna came to be. According to popular belief, Purusha, the creator and primordial being, sacrificed himself to give rise to the four social orders. According to legend, Purusha destroyed himself so that a proper social order could develop. The Purusha Sakta, the 10th book of the Rig Veda, contains the earliest hymn which claims that the Brahmana Varna symbolized the Purusha's mouth, the Rajana, that is the Kshatriya, his arms, the Vaishya, his thighs, and the Shudra, his feet. It has been established that there are other sections outside the Purusha Sukta where the partition of society into Varna is mentioned, though not in the strict manner of the later times. The four Varnas are therefore described in the Rig Veda as having various vocations: one to high sway, that is Brahman; one to exalted glory, that is Kshatriya; one to pursue his gain, that is Vaishya; and one to his labor, that is Shudra. The Triguna theory of the Varna system's genesis is provided by S.C. Dubey. Ancient Indian philosophy called Triguna identified three gunas in things like people, living things, and human behavior. These three fundamental characteristics are sattva, rajas, and tamas. The components of sattva were honorable ideas and deeds, goodness and virtue, truth and wisdom. Rajas, on the other hand, were known for their extravagant lifestyle, extravagance, pride, and valor. At the bottom was tamas, which had the qualities of quiescence and dullness, averse, without taste, and the ability to perform difficult tasks without much creativity. Therefore, those who possessed sattvic qualities were categorized as Brahmans, those who possessed rajasic qualities as Kshatriya and Vaishyas, and those who possessed tamasic virtues as Shudras. A third approach considers functional specialization, cultural contact, and racial admixture. These three elements cannot alone explain how the Varna came to be. Race and complexion were significant components in the early stage of Hindu society's formation, the Vedic period. But by the time it had completely developed, it was merely a cultural construct and not a biological reality. Cultural interaction led to Aryanization, but one must keep in mind that this was a two-way process including donor-recipient relationships. The pre-Aryan Vrathya traditions made their presence known, changing the Aryan system of social organization, rituals, beliefs, and worldview in the process. Together, groups were assimilated into the new social order, adapting some new traits while clinging to other from the past and leaving their mark on society as a whole. Returning to the Purusha Sukta, the entire Sakta has a metaphorical meaning in relation to the Purusha and the formation of the Varnas from his limbs. According to the Purusha, he is this entire universe, all that has been and everything that will be. Further, we are also informed that the moon formed from his mind, the sun from his eyes, Agni and Indra were created out of his mouth, and wind from his breath. From his navel arose the atmosphere, from his feet the earth, and from his head the sky, and from his ear the four quarters, and in this way the entire universe was created. The issue of the creation and evolution of Varna has also been the subject of extensive thinking in the epics and Dharma Shastra literature. There were no separate castes or classes of men in the Krita Yoga, according to the Mahabharata. However, the sage Birju claims that just a small number of Brahmins were initially produced by the great Brahman, after which the four human subgroups Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra developed. The Brahmins had white skin, Kshatriyas had red skin, the Vaishyas had yellow skin, and the Shudras had black skin. In this way, the Rishi Briju explains to Bharadwaj how the Varna came to be. Another idea discusses the beginning and progression of the Varnas. According to this hypothesis, the vocations or activities people over time have chosen to engage in are where the Varnas first appeared. According to the idea, all people in the world at first were Brahmins who were equally formed by Brahma, and mankind were later split into distant Varnas as a result of their actions. The idea goes on to claim that the one initial class of Divijayas gave rise to the four Varnas and other castes are twice born. According to this, those who overindulged in pleasure acquire the traits of harshness and fury. They were also blessed with boldness and forget their own dharma. And those Divijayas who held the quality of redness became Kshatriyas. People who neglected their responsibilities developed the characteristics of darkness and engaged in agriculture and cattle raising became Vaishyas. The Divijas who were inclined to lying and harming living things had greed, engaged in indiscriminate work for their support, and who as a result nurtured the quality of darkness within them evolved into Shudras. Due to their separation from the obligations of their own order as a result of their activities, the Divijas got emerged into the other three Varnas. Therefore, none of them are forbidden from engaging in all dharmas and yajanas activities. Furthermore, individuals who out of ignorance neglected their responsibilities and lived carefree lives eventually descended into lower castes like the Pisachas, Rakshas, and various Malichas or Jatis. Manusmriti agrees with the notion that the four Varna descended from the Creator's limbs. Mano claims that distant Varnas have been given varying responsibilities and occupations in order to safeguard this entire universe. Mano praises the Brahman Varna as God's finest invention. He further claims categorically that there are only four Varnas: Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and that there is no fifth. Mano's thesis of origin of mixed castes differ from the Mahabharata's idea in a few key ways. It asserts that although the kids of twice born males, Divijas, are Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, of wives from the lower classes, are undoubtedly related to the Varna of their respective fathers. They are condemned because of the flaw in their mother's side. This was the traditional law that governs offspring of a wife whose Varna was just one degree under her husband's. As a result, the actual Varna's mixture, Varna Samaskara, occur in children born to a lady who is 2 or 3 Varnas lower than her husband. Thus, an Ambishta would be the son of a Brahman father and a Vaishya mother. A Nishada would be the son of a Brahman father and a Shudra mother, and so on. There are several ways in which the Varnas are mixed. Children born to a Kshatriya father and a Brahman mother are Suta caste members. Those born to a Vaishya father and a Kshatriya mother or a Brahmana mother are members of the Magadha and Vidya castes. Additionally, intermarriages between these new castes result in the emergence of new castes, continuing the process of multiplication. Mano has used the word jati to distinguish it from Varna. As a result, the Suta, Magadha, and Vidha are given their respective names based on their jati. Mano also referred to this as a Varna Samaskara or a mixture of Varnas. Despite just mentioning 4 Varnas, Mano specifies roughly 57 jatis due to Varna Samaskara. Now we will be talking about duties assigned to Varna. Here, the 4 Varnas that make up society are correlated to their respective roles. Their origins are a symbolic reflection of the 4 Varnas' positions and roles. The traditional functions are ranked in declining order together with the head, arms, thighs, and feet in the cultural conception of the human body. From a different perspective, the Purusha Sukta has been seen to have a metaphorical significance. As a result, the Purusha mouth from which the Brahmanas are descended is the source of speech, and as a result, the Brahmanas were intended to serve as humankind's teachers and mentors. A Brahman should always and diligently study the Vedas alone and impact the Vedas according to Manu. A Brahman also has the right to serve as a priest and is allowed to accept gift from honorable members of the 3 higher Varnas as a source of support. It is referred to as Pratigraha. The Kshatriya's role in this world is to carry weapons and defend people, since the arms are a sign of bravery and strength. The Kshatriyas were given the responsibilities of government, administration, and military defense. It is challenging to comprehend the hymn which deal with the creation of the Vaishya from the thighs of the Purusha. However, the thighs might have been meant to stand in for the lower body, which is responsible for producing food. As a result, it is possible to say that the Vaishyas were made to feed the populace. Thus, the Vaishyas engaged in agriculture, trade, and commerce. The Shudra's creation from the foot represented the Shudra's role as the footmen and servants to the other Varnas. The Shudras were the least valuable because they provided labor and service to the others. The entire social structure is conceptualized here metaphorically as a single human being, or the body social, with its limbs standing in for the various social classes based on the principle of division of labor. The similar sentiment is expressed in the Mahabharata as our respect to that Purusha who is comprised of Brahmans in the mouth, Kshatriya in the arms, Vaishyas in the entire regions, stomach and thighs, and Shudras in the feet. According to the Dharma Shastras, there existed an ascending order of responsibilities in the fourfold classification of duties described above. Brahman was given the most important position, but he was also given the most duties. The Brahmins were primarily in charge of maintaining dharma overall. The Kshatriya was assigned the next social standing in the Varna hierarchy because he was in charge of maintaining law and order in society and defending the country in times of war. He utilized the Brahman scholar to provide social justice. The Vaishyas and Shudras were given a lower rank because they had less responsibilities. Over time, the Shudra became so despised that he was forbidden from touching a Brahman. The Shudra was only eligible for the Grahastha, that is household, ashram, out of the four: Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa, and was unable to be initiated into the study of Vedic philosophy. Now, we'll be talking about the mobility of the Varnas. Between the many Varnas, there appears to be constant upward and downward social mobility. In Yajnavalkya, this mobility is described in two ways. Jatyutkarsa or caste upliftment was the term used to describe the transformation of a lower Varna individual into a higher Varna. On the other hand, Jatyap Akarsa or the degeneration of the caste was the term used to describe when a member of higher Varna eventually fell into a lower Varna. Different Dharma Shastras gave out provision for both these stratification process of social mobility with just small variation in the requirements. It was specifically predicated on two circumstances. First, if a person has practiced another Varna's profession for 5 to 6 generations, and second, if they marry into different Varnas. Since the procedure had to be carried out across numerous generations, it is easy to guess that such mobility only occur in practice on real occasions. However, it is evident that the Dharma Shastras did foretell the Varna's ability to move both upwards and downwards through interaction with one another. In that case, marriage and profession were two proper options. Additionally, the Dharma Shastras prescribe what is known as apadharma, or that which is worthy of following under extraordinary circumstances in abnormal conditions, rather than the Varna Dharma which had to be followed in regular situations. Mano lists 10 ways to survive amid adversity, including education, creative endeavors, paid employment, service following orders, raising cattle, selling goods, agriculture, contentment, alms, and money lending. When there is no suffering, several of these cannot be followed by a Brahman or a Kshatriya. According to the Dharma Shastra, Brahmans who engage in specific behaviors should be regarded as Shudras. Without studying the Veda but putting up great effort to master something else, he and his family are quickly demoted to the position of a Shudra. Apadharma does not therefore imply the right to act however one pleases when crises arise. There are several instances of well-known people refusing to alter their assigned tasks under exceedingly unfavorable circumstances. Once more, even when such a shift was allowed, it was always despised and never welcomed. Now we will be talking about framework for consolidation of jatis. With the growth of caste and subcastes and their social mobility, the early medieval period saw significant changes in society. The social environment became more complicated and flexible as a result. On the one hand, the social changes represented a substantial divergence from the Brahminical sculptures, simple idol of a strict social structure or the four Varna system. However, the Brahminical writings themselves did capture the deviance from their idol in the shape of the Kali Yuga, a period of social turmoil. The Kali Yuga was portrayed in the Brahminical discourses as the most socially advanced of the four previous yogas. Beginning around the 3rd century CE, descriptions of the Kali era may be found in the epics and Puranas. These descriptions are also found in several early medieval books and inscriptions. The Kali Age crisis not only show the authors of Brahminical literature strong expression of displeasure with what they saw to be societal standards deviating from Brahminical one, but it also makes observations and comments on how society was developing during the early medieval period. On the one hand, the early medieval texts such as the Simritis, commentaries, Tika, Bhashya, Virti, Dharmashastras, compilations, Samgraha or digests, Nibandha of extracts from the Dharmashastras and Puranas continued to repeat the Brahminical scheme of Varna Ashrama Dharma, the ideal division of society into Varnas and individual's life into ashrams. However, they also went much beyond what was expected by exposing contemporary social trends. They supplied novel interpretation, adjustments, and occasionally substitutions in the light of shifting social milieu of the early medieval period. The idea of Varna Samaskara, which refers to marriages between Varnas and Mishra Jatis, mixed castes, or among Mishra Jatis, was used in early medieval Brahmanical texts to explain why castes were multiplying and how this led to an expansion of the caste system. Anuloma and Pratiloma were thought to result in Varna Samaskara in inter-Varna marriages. The progeny of Anuloma was placed above that of Pratiloma in the Varna hierarchy, even though both were disapproved. The Brahminical Varna Jati system included many social groupings by placing some outside of it, but it also excluded many. The Varna Jati order included a number of indigenous tribes, frontier dwellers, foreign migrants, occupational groups, and religious sects. Others were shunned as Malichas. However, there was never consistency and uniformity between text in the inclusion, exclusion, and ranking of groups under the Varna Jati framework. This hints at a very fluid and regionally varied social stratification and explains the variations in Brahminical interpretations of the Varna Jati system's constituent groups. Dear students, it was all about today's lecture regarding the Varna. Hope you have understood it well. See you next time with a new topic. Till then, take care and goodbye.